I think it's pretty much the same though. They just kind of used it to, in particular for elk.
Oh, okay.
You know, the elk always come back to a place that's been, you know, that's been burned over with the fresh grass. So, and the elk was really a major food source, and also the hides were favored for making teepees with. So, fire was used pretty much the same way the Salish were, but in particular, the Kootenays wanted to use it for elk food.
Hollow stem.
So in Salish, what is snowberry?
Snowberry.
Stimtumnia. Stimtumnia.
Okay.
What was that called?
Pine drops is what it's called in English.
Pine drops.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
about this big. This is last year's plant, but they're about the same color even when they're fresh. A little bit redder.
Okay. Did you get that? Don't know what it is though in Kootenai.
Like the Salish people would boil that and use it to wash their hair.
Pine drops.
That's the only thing I can remember growing up.
Apmes.
My yaya told me that.
Literal translation, coyote's arrow, which is from a coyote legend, which we can't talk about right now.
There's probably, because some of the plants aren't identified in here because they didn't know what it was. I mean, they only knew it in Kootenai, and then they didn't, you know, and the two could never, the one who knew it in Latin couldn't connect with the one in Kootenai, who couldn't connect with the one in English, and so.
Too many languages.
Too bad Adeline isn't here, because she probably would have, she would have known that, because that she used all the stuff for the ones in their hair with her children and stuff, but probably the same. Okay.
Virgin's bower. Do you know Virgin's bower? Clematis. Clematis tenuliphobia. That one? It was medicine?
Chiliatla. Chiliatla.
Well, I shouldn't say medicine. It's actually used for, like, for your hair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of like to wash it, or
To rinse it.
Oh, the Ponderosa Pine or the red pine is himu. Himu.
S'atqulp.
Okay, once more.
S'atqulp.
And the fur right in front of it is Thu. Thu. That's also used for enet. Thu. It's like, do you agree, or enet? Thu. You're telling them fir tree.
Sata. I sounded out every word.
Yeah, slow
Every
it
sound
down.
of it.
And that's,
Fur.
S'atqulp. S'atqulp.
The white pines used to be they were a lot of old growth, and so they were pretty huge. And so some of the stories from the last ones that used to make the Kootenai canoes, the guy was from up in Creston area, and he learned from his grandparents, and the stories that they told about it was that the way that they used to gathered when they'd get the bark was that they could go and they could cut the covering for the canoe off of the tree while it's still standing, and then they would cut it off of one side enough to make the canoe, and then wouldn't kill the tree. And so then the tree could, you know, could kind of heal on one side, and so they'd be, you know, floating the river in their canoe, but the tree that the bark came from was still alive, you know. And the branches used to be far enough in between on that in those days that they could get the full canoe out of it without having to patch it. Later on in the early 1900s, the canoes that they made, you'd see a lot of them have patches from where the holes from where the branches were, but that was after they started killing off and logging off the old growth. White pine is qitqm. qitqm. I'm not a, I guess I better start with a disclaimer here. There's a lady who works with the Kootenai Culture Committee who is the botanist that knows far more about the plants and all that, so, but Adrian asked if I would come along and do this trip with you, and I agreed to, but you know, I don't know, I told him I'll share what I do know, but that's not very much, so I had to bring our Bible along, and they, because I always get lost in the woods, I'm afraid of them. No, just kidding.
One other tree I was wondering about down here is western larch.
Oh yes, The larch that you see standing there, that kustit.
Kustit?
Yeah. Kustit.
Tsakwelsh. Tsakwelsh.
They're did you say bathroom? It's the fir trees are the girls and the pines are the boys. We call it dogwood or red willow, or, you know, the Kootenai word for it is mukwuk. The reason why I was pointing it out is because it's used for pipe stems.
Stetstu. Stetstu.
Right in the middle, it's got it's a pithy core through the middle, so it's easy to go through. And they called the Bitterroot Salish people, the Kootenays called them mukwuk, which was the people of the Red Willow. The bush is mukwuk.
I don't know how to spell it.
mukwuk. It's pipe stem.
No, I messed it up. Mukwuk? No?
Mukwuk.
Mukwuk. Oh, and that means just that bush?
Yeah, well, the flowers or berries that grow on there, they call them mook.
Oh.
And then the wook part is the bush, so it's mukwuk is that bush.
Berry bush?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So of all of the plants, any of them that have, you know, when you talk about the bush itself, then they would have wook as the ending on the name.
And it's starting to get a little bit cooler, a little bit wetter, and the three species that we're going to see are grand fir, lodgepole pine, and there's some spruce, Engelmann spruce, all over here. So those are the three. As we drove up the hill, you might notice we're getting more Doug fir, less Ponderosa pine. From now on, if we were to keep going up the hill, we'd only find the Ponderosa pine when it faces south, when it gets dry again. So there's a real change. You can tell when you get a southern aspect because you'll see pockets of pine show up. But we're kind of on the upper elevation range for Ponderosa pine right here. So we're going to see more Doug fir. And our next stop's just another couple hundred yards past here where there's a lot of cedar. It's getting cool and wet, and we get a flat area. So we'll get into cedar here in a minute. But there were a couple of species we were wondering. This is another one that we teach the classes on. This is red alder. The qitqm.
Unless there was a particular use for it, they would generally call all of the plants, you know, of the same species the same. Namat.
Alder. Qitqm. Qitqm. Chokecherry. Llo. Llo. Oregon grape. Stals. Stals.
The kinnikinnick is the bush part, you know. Tsakawuk. Tsakawuk.
Kinnikinnick. Skulse. Skulse.
Tsaka are the berries that grow on that.
Okay, again, like the berries on the bush
Yeah,
together.
tsakawuk.
Grand fir. There's no shade tolerant understory. I don't.
I was gonna look up that alder.
Most of them like that are, you know, it's like I said, unless there was a particular use for it separate from the rest, then they would pretty much call them all the same. Most of the firs they refer just to.
Grand fir. Sticklp. Sticklp.
There's another right next to Andrew. That would be easier. But lodgepole pine.
Qitqm.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't catch lodgepole.
Qitqm. Qitqm. Qitqm.
Qulqulit. Qulqulit.
Buffalo berry. You know buffalo berry?
No.
It's a real dark green shrub, and it's really nice and dark green. You look at the underside, I always remember, because they have little dots on the underside. Some people call it soapberry.
Oh.
Indian ice cream. Indian ice cream.
Oh, okay. Schosum. Schosum.
Schosum.
Oh, okay. That's Kopatish. Kopatish.
Slunk.
Silversberry.
Well, you have this, that's over there. T2E. Horse mint?
Horse mint?
Yeah. A good tea for like kids because it tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have to put sugar or anything in there. You just make a tea out of this, and it's good for the throat.
Grouse whortleberry.
What? Grouse whortleberry?
Little tiny huckleberries.
Oh yeah. Nupxamut.
Nupxamut.
Sipped. Yeah.
They should be starting pretty soon. The males always start before the females.
You know, because some of them are named for, like, you know, maybe out of a legend, or some of them were named, you know, by a particular spirit, and some of them are named for what they're used for, and some what they look like. So, but what comes to mind with the tit at the end, I don't know. But it must be something you can, you know, like if you look at a larch and then you look at a lodgepole, and so, you know.
I wonder if that's something to do with the short needles or just the general. Yeah.
Could be, yeah, yeah.
They're both there together next to each other too.
They're like the deer on Rock Point.
And is there, we have some Engelmann spruce right over here. I don't know, or is there just a, I'm wondering if they're like the firs, if there was a collective term for spruce, or if Engelmann spruce had.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Engelmann spruce is slush. That probably has to do with its use.
Selp.
It's really, I think it's the only native spruce in this valley too. The blue spruce is from Colorado region. It just does so well with pollution and in yards. It's planted a lot. So, I mean, I guess I kind of cheat, but if it's in the woods and it's a spruce, it's Engelmann. But yeah, it is. It's not quite as. The needles are a little finer than like a blue spruce or a. When they get old, they have that really, the bark's beautiful. It's that kind of purple potato chippy bark. It's really flaky. It's kind of a purpley color.
Ah. And they're always like that close to a stream?
Not always, but they like it cool and wet. They're really, as we get up higher, you know, especially places where there's snow for half the year, you'll find a lot more of them. And then, I know it's kind of funny, I live near the canal just east of Pablo, and there's a spot there where it gets cool, and you can feel it even in the summer when you walk there. It's just the cold air drains off the mountain, and the spruce just shows up everywhere at the same moment. They start to think, oh, I should have bought a jacket, and you look around. Blue subalpine for the use, is that something you feel you can share, or is that, I mean, I don't want to... No, okay, fair enough.
I don't know.
Yeah, oh, okay. I didn't know if it was confidential or...
Yeah, what's the thing with that? Because I know, like, I worked at the Division of Fire and we couldn't understory anything in Elmo because of the juniper. They didn't really give us a clear definition of why. Other than it was cultural, so I mean, we couldn't really clean up a lot of that stuff up there.
They're not telling the Division of Fire too much, maybe. Maybe not much at all.
I don't know, it's just one of those things you
Yeah.
kind of curious.
I don't know how much of that they'd want me to talk about. So
Okay. Yep. That's.
yeah, it's used for ceremonial purposes. So that's just.
Can you share the name with us? Is that you think?
Oh yeah, it's the juniper is Akukpsusash. Akukpsusash. That's also the same thing that they call pepper.
Oh really?
Pepper that you sprinkle on your food.
Huh. Was it used for food spice as well, or
No.
is it just
No.
Just okay.
Just happen to have the same name.
Same name.
Juniper, punshp.
Now, I know scientifically willow is one of those that we all just kind of group them together. Was there a similar thing?
You
'Cause
know,
there's like 200 species
right,
of willow. And
right.
it just,
Like I said, some of them are used for a different, you know, if it's used for a different purpose, like in here they have three different names for willow.
oh.
Akusukpak.
Yellow or green willow. Papaw.
Is what they call the yellow or green willow. Akusukpak. And then the willow bush. Stomp. That's a glottal M. You kind of put a stop on the M. Stomp.
That's cottonwood?
No, that's the willow.
Willow.
Which is the willow?
Right. These are all willows, kind of right.
You said they were cottonwood.
No. No, leaves are too long and thin.
Willows?
Yep.
And then the pussy willow. Akusukpak.
Pussy willow would be qitqm. Steet, I think it's qitqm or qitqm.
Mostly because we don't pick it anymore, you know, the wild ones.
Just a lot less of them than there used to be, or?
Yeah. Akuku. Akuku. That's the wild strawberry. Akuku. That's also what they call they changed it now, that's what they'll call the regular strawberries now, is also called the same thing. Akuku.
qitqm. Glacier lily. Mache.
So,
If you want to get a shot of the cedars there, cedar is it's not. It's not. Yeah, just like
Looks like cedar, but it's not.
it's not. Yeah. Yeah. Thought it was juniper, but it's not.
I mean, is there anything else you could share about cedar stands in general, or is it just?
Well, it's good to trade with the crows.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they don't have a whole lot of cedar.
They don't have a whole lot of cedar, so they like it when they can find some cedar when they come over this way.
I speak some crow.
Cedar. There's a lot of cedar along this bottom down here, that flat cedar.
Quelzen. Okay.
There's a good comedy show tonight.
Yeah, that's what we heard. I know the Forestry Club has been
Nupxamut. Nupxamut.
Show them how it smells and
Nupxamut.
Fireweed. Kokosnesp. Wild rose. Huiesp.
How about paper birch? There's a nice paper birch right in here.
Which one is it? That one there?
This right here. You can kind of it's this hardwood growing right here.
What's that called? Paper birch?
Paper birch, yeah.
What is that creature in there? Blueberry.
And when you get through, we have strawberries here too.
What is that? Oh, I've been collecting crap.
That's Akuwashwook. Akuwashwook. Did you hear that one? Okay. Akuwashwook. Wow. That's a nice big one.
It is a nice big one, yeah. Actually, over here in the cedar, there are little pockets of, most of them are dying out, but the more recent disturbance here, they need a lot of light to get going like that.
Yeah.
Paper birch. Qitqm.
Oh yeah. Aksumak.
Aksuma?
Aksumak. I think that's referring to that peeling, the peeling part of when the bark peels off.
Oh.
Aksumak.
Aspen. Milte.
That I'm not.
I don't think that part is, that's probably why it's not doing so well, huh?
Yeah. The tire and bad habitat.
You call,
Yeah.
what's the Latin word for tire?
For tire? Juncus something, probably. Juncus goodyearensis. Or, yeah. It seems that a lot of the plant words start with ach. Does that mean anything? Is that a descriptive or?
Yeah, ach is kind of like a, it's, you know, you're starting to say a noun.
Oh, okay.
And so ach is probably the, you know, if you looked up all the words that begin with ach in the dictionary, you would probably have half the words in the dictionary.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. So it's not indicative of plants. It's just the
Right.
nouns. Oh,
Right.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Akin, akish. You know, it almost all of it starts with ak.
okay.
It'll always. That's the most common, just the most common name. You know, starting of a noun, most common.
I knew I was detecting
I guess
a
it's
pattern,
not even necessarily even a noun either, because I guess you could, there would be others that would start with ak. Kutsats katuna, the yarrow. Kutsats katuna. Kutsats katuna.
Nkukwa. Nkukwa.
Pacific yew, the understory.
Oh.
It's one of my favorite trees. It grows in the shade, and it's so shade tolerant that it's even got chlorophyll in its young bark, so it can photosynthesize more. It's a neat plant.
Yeah, it's tsipish. Tsipish. Tsipish.
That's a hard first sound.
That's a hard /c.
Oh, okay.
/c is said like a TS, and then you make it hard. Tsipish.
You. Chkuncha. Chkuncha.
Is it used for bow construction? I know a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and they found
I didn't know there were any up here.
Yeah, they're scattered around. I know in the next up at Blue Bay drainage, I heard there's some big old ones. I haven't been up there, but some students have told me they found some kind of fairly large ones.
Wow.
So they like these cool shady drainages, I guess. But yeah, it's a beauty.
Yeah, I've seen some in the park, in Glacier Park, but not that size. That's nice. Aksashku. 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 Ak with a K. Ak. Shashku.
Is that same hard C then?
No,
or
that's a hard K.
Hard K. Okay.
Aksashku.
Silchestia. Silchestia.
That one?
Oh,
No.
there's some up there.
There's a tree up there.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Here's some kind of black. Is that it?
Looks like it. The green is poisonous, huh?
I don't trust any of it, actually.
Oh. That's what they would use to make licorice. Actually, just about the right time of the year to find it too, when they.
Yeah, it's kind of mixed in with the green.
What's it called?
Oh, the moss?
Yeah.
Kushna. Kushna.
Shoutemchen is before the moss is baked, and it's baked along with the camas. And then the word for moss then is skla.
That's like an apple or something, isn't it?
It is an apple. What's it doing up here?
Somebody was eating.
It does look like an apple.
It is, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Straight growing, huh?
Yeah, I know. Usually they're so kind of stunted and out, but I guess that's what
Oh, I guess
competition
it had
does.
to reach, huh?
Bears eat apples, and then they go up in the woods, and then they relieve themselves, and the next thing you know, there's an apple tree growing there.
Actually, Johnny Appleseed went through here.
What kind of beetle makes that sound?
Tsipish.
Tipis.
Tsipish. There's a couple of them in here, huh?
Yeah, like you said, well, look at the size of that one there. It's
Yeah.
huge.
I think it would be the same as the wood.
Appelsal.
Appelsalq.
Tree.
Appelsalq.
Stipu. Stipu is the current. Stipu.
Current. Stumtu. Stumtu. Thimbleberry. Polpelqen. Polpelqen.
Katslukasakpik.
Okay, you're on your own with that one.
Katslukasakpik.
Wow.
Katslukasakpik.
Cats.
Cuts.
Cats.
Hook.
Who?
Hook.
Cuts. Yeah, that's a hard. Katslukasakpik.
Cats.
Sukasakpik. It's talking about the kind of leaves.
The big flat open leaves.
Katslukasakpik. Didn't know what she was gonna do. I thought, wow, even the elders getting hooked on cell phones.
It's amazing how short a period of time it takes too, or anything like that.
Yeah.